so bad.
Do you have mouth guard in too?
No.
Okay.
No.
That would have made it really tough.
Yeah. I feel like a dog.
All right, so yesterday, I know we already kind of took a look at this slide as super zoom, but just want to kind of reiterate a couple things because some folks were getting confused about it and had some questions. The obviously book you're reading titled Siddhartha, you're Siddhartha himself, the protagonist, main character, fictional. So not a real person. You're not going to find any websites about Siddhartha himself. But he does come across in chapter 3, he does come across the Buddha, the illustrious one, who is also named Siddhartha. And the Buddha is real person. So, we can validate that he did live 5th century BCE, like we have record of him. So the Buddha himself is not like a combination of fact, fiction, myth. We don't really know a whole lot about him. We do have a basis for him. So historical novel in the sense then that when the Buddha shows up in third body paragraph, it would be meant to be the real Buddha. But obviously Siddhartha himself, work of fiction, not going to be an actual person. The stuff that we were taking a look at yesterday, the Vedas, the Upanishads, caste system, all that kind of stuff, was taking a look at Hindu culture, and I say religion in quotation marks just because religion is probably not a word that is suffice for explaining the complexity of it if you are a Hindu. But all of those things would be of Hindu religion culture. When Buddha shows up, he kind of starts to break away from it. So he's born Hindu, would be in the noble caste, and then he kind of starts to teach this idea that there is a path to nirvana, meaning nothingness, where you can escape from that cycle of endless rebirths. And the way to escape it is essentially you no longer desire things. So if you are able to take yourself and put yourself in a place where you are not being influenced or desire external items or forces, that is going to allow you to leave that cycle of rebirth, which is referred to as samsara. That's a difficult thing to do. And, a lot of religions and philosophies and cultures and whatnot teach not necessarily being perfection, but trying not to worry about, more menial things or materialistic ideas. But that's tough for us to do. If we were to take Alyssa's new cell phone and hide it from her, she would probably get pretty upset about it. We could go, hey, if you no longer have your cell phone, you will now achieve the level of nirvana, but she probably still wants to have the cell phone so she can get her mind taxes. Now that we're signed up for it. If we took Greg's ruler,
Which one? That's not cool.
that one, because it's like bendy and flexible. No.
Let's take his brother.
Then, I don't.
I'm the only one who wished Mr. Kate a Merry Christmas.
Which would you be more upset if we stole? Chandler or your ruler?
Actually, no, I would be more upset if Chandler.
How does Mrs. Kane pronounce ruler?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't.
You
say what? Ask her to say ruler. She says like, I can't do it. Ruler.
You're right, I just can't do it.
Ruler. All right, these things we want to write down.
Oh, apparently Addie made fun of my name, and then she drew an elf on my chest.
Drew a what?
Elf.
Oh, an elf.
Yeah.
I thought like an F.
No.
I was like, that might be earned, not drawn. But all right, so the Four Noble Truths that the Buddha teaches. Number 1, you can understand this. I think we mentioned it yesterday. You're a junior in high school, so it works out perfectly. To exist is to suffer. Yep. Was it last year when your nose exploded? Well, this year.
This year, maybe my nose will explode.
So to exist is to suffer. The reason that you suffer is because you desire. So you suffer solely because you desire things. And it doesn't have to be physical items, but it could. It could be you desire money, desire wealth, power, you desire A+ in all your literary term quizzes, you desire admittance into something, whatever the case may be, who knows, but you desire something. Now the good news is you can end your suffering by no longer. by no longer desiring. So if you're able to eliminate desires, you can eliminate suffering, and the way to eliminate desire is to follow the Eightfold Path, which we'll get into here in a little bit.
Yeah, we got the second and
Are you
There's
really?
a difference between surviving and living.
What was your question?
Okay, in his, so basically he wants you to remove yourself from any desires or like feelings, I guess. And so if you do that, are you actually, like you're living and breathing, but like are you actually like what's your purpose? Just to sit there and do nothing?
You would, the desires that people would have, I'll say you, but doesn't mean, you representing everyone. The desires that you have are human desires. To truly be in touch with the eternal universal soul, you have to put away the human desires. So would you live, and I know this is going to sound weird, would you live a human life by giving those things up? No. But the argument would be what you gain is so much greater. The follow-up question is, well, what do I gain? Problem is, by talking to a human, you don't know, because we have not experienced it. It would be like talking, from a Christian standpoint, it would be like talking to someone about heaven. Is heaven a wonderful place? Yes. Well, how do you know?
But you still experience there's still you know what I'm saying? Like you still have love and all of this.
For saying that it's impossible to eliminate desire.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it with the Eightfold Path. You would give those things up. So a primary concern would not be human interaction, connection. Yes, you still need to eat, but you would need to possess things that you need in order to sustain life. So clothing is going to be basic. Food, you'll probably beg for simple food as opposed to going out to some all-you-can-eat kind of buffet. But anything that you put forth as a need in order to attain this enlightenment, and again, nirvana is nothingness, so you are no longer being impacted by human needs, desires, items, which is tough to do.
Do you even have a personality? Like if you need and desire nothing, you literally eat, sleep.
This is going to be an odd comparison. It's the only thing I can think of that might kind of make sense. There's a book called Flatland, published early 1900s. I think it's like 1902. The book Flatland is about flatland. It's a two-dimensional world. So it's populated by shapes. So it's all squares and triangles. Bree's trying to get her mind to wrap around this, and it's not working. We can't understand it because we live in three-dimensional world. So for us to kind of think about things being completely flat is impossible for us because we have depth. But Flatland is a book about flatland. And so it's solely, things that I remember, it's been a long time since I've read it. Your status is determined by the number of sides that you have. So if you are an isosceles triangle, you're like an infantryman and soldier. You're pointy. Your job is to stab the other shapes. As you gain wealth, you gain more sides. So circles don't exist. Everything has sides. But if you're like even Laura, there's deca, is that like 12 or 10 or dodeca is 12. That means you are possessing more wealth and power as you build size. It's difficult for us to comprehend it because we're completely changing perspective. So in some ways, this would be happening as well. Not everyone would agree with this, but some would argue that this idea of universal soul that goes beyond the realms of humanity, you're even kind of talking about fourth dimension manipulation of time and whatnot, where you are seeing things in that state that typically we would not be able to see. So to the initial question, would I cease to exist? In a way, yes, based from the parameters, the perspectives that we think about what existence would be.
So if you go over to one of these locations and there's beggars on the street or something, and you know how people in America feel the need to we need to go over there and help them and give them a better standard of life. Would they even do that? Because if this is what they believe, they would not.
So example from book. Okay, if you want to become a follower of Buddha, and then Truth will go to you, one of the things that you would do is you would beg for food. So you would beg for what you need, but once you got enough of what you need, you would move on and do something else. If Gray has a large home, he could let us use his yard, his garden, as kind of a gathering space. We're not going to come in and hang out and have a party on New Year's Eve at his place, but if he's willing to, like, loan or lend the area for us to gather and do what we need, we will accept that. So you still might accept offers in charity, but you're not going to get to the level of like mooching off someone because you're taking excess of what it is that you need. But you're really not going to possess much of anything, because once you have that possession and you require more, you're starting to desire. So when Sadie opens up her Christmas present Legos and goes, ooh, I like this, I like this, I like this, but where's my Magic Kingdom Lego set? She is suffering because she's desiring. And now I'm suffering with her birthday being next week and having to hear about it.
Can we read Flatland next?
I have one copy.
Might
be hard.
I
I don't remember the author's name. It's I think it's something Abbott, because it's like A squared. I'll have to see if I can find the copy of it, because I have it somewhere at home.
Like imagine being like
Definitely a parallelism.
The biography of Zero is a good book.
what's that about?
The number 0. That one I liked. I like Flatland too, but that one's a little bit more recent. So the Eightfold Path. So this is what you would follow in order to attain, the need to no longer desire. Is you would act in that you would have right belief, and we'll go over what these things mean. But right belief, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And certainly a lot of these things can kind of seem like they overlap. I broke them off into groups. Numbers 1 and 2 would kind of deal more with like insightfulness, not necessarily wisdom, but just insightfulness or understanding. Numbers 3, 4, and 5 are more like moral virtue kind of codes, pretty similar to any kind of tenet or commandment that would exist within a religion. Pretty much everyone wants you to say nice things, don't injure people, don't cause Savannah's nose to explode, don't murder, don't kill. Those tend to be pretty universal truths for the most part. 6, 7, and 8, these deal more so with meditation, which is important in both Hinduism and Buddhism, where you are able to kind of, in some ways, kind of empty yourself and no longer desire those things anymore as your mind goes to a different place and hopefully able to attain nirvana. Things, for example, that like right belief would encompass would be understanding that words and actions can have consequences beyond the immediate time, but it could come back to, I don't necessarily want to say hurt you or haunt you, but it could certainly affect things that happen within the future. The right resolve, Adele, with the idea of giving up those desires, whether it be relationship or material. Number 2 would be the idea that you have the resolve that you're no longer going to allow yourself to be kind of truly impacted by those external forces. Right speech, right conduct, livelihood, basically you're going to live along the right way. And then the effort, the mindfulness, and the concentration, all with the idea that you'll be able to take your mind and focus it towards the necessary things, the necessary thoughts, philosophies when it comes to that meditation taking place. Now keep in mind, just because you do these things doesn't mean that you automatically end your suffering by ending all desires. How many people can not desire any kind of material good, wealth, human relationships, things like that? That's probably a slim number. How many people, regardless of religion, can follow all the virtues that their religion or culture put forward? That's a small number too. So at the very least, even if you might not end your suffering by ending all desires, you are at the very least kind of limiting what those things would be. So it's not that you fail because you still love someone, but at least the things that could be more harmful or problematic for you, you're able to try to minimize their impact.
So like if you, how you said the caste system has like, if you are in this caste, you're going to become a priest, or like, if you don't want to, you don't have to kind of thing, but you're still
And keep in mind, because I'm glad you mentioned with the whole caste system, historically, Siddhartha the Buddha is a noble. And so who most of the people that he would be talking to, or at least, interacting with at that time are going to be fellow nobles. So the whole idea of not desiring things like power, wealth, and money, that's going to resonate more with the noble because that's what they have. You don't have a lot of servants, you don't have untouchables that are kind of like in this group, because one, they're not interacting with them at that time, but then number two, that might not necessarily be as big of a desire for them because they don't have a whole lot. Now, once they do become practicing Buddhists, your interaction with other people starts to vary, and you could be a servant, you could be an untouchable, you could be a merchant who becomes a Buddhist. But I think one of the reasons why, like 1 and 2 are so important, initially within the context of the book, if you're a noble, I mean, it's almost like you're right to have money, wealth, power, and so it's a big deal to be able to give those things up.
So when they say desire, would desire be like something like education, like you're not supposed to have education?
Desire would be literally anything that you want. So it wouldn't be that you don't have the right to an education anymore, but some people are on like the eternal quest for what is truth with like a capital T, like what is it? If your sole purpose is the desire to attain some kind of knowledge that is blinding you from other things around you, that's a desire that's going to be causing suffering. Because unless you get it, you won't be happy. You won't be satisfied. Now, if you have to have a 4.0, no matter what, Jenna must get that pointy letter grade in every single class, and if she does not get it, that means none of it was worth anything. That's a desire that's getting in the way. If Jenna gets all A's in that 1B plus, and she goes, I hate you, Mr. Kane. You ruined it for me, desire. If she goes, I picked up some stuff along the way, it was okay, then even though she got the education, it wasn't like a desire that was keeping her from attaining other things. So if it's something that kind of gets in your way, you have to do all of these things, or you have to have this, that's going to be a desire. What do parents say to kids all the time? When will you be happy? Or what do husbands say to their spouses all the time? When will you be happy, or when will you be satisfied with what you have? So you get something, and people want, well, I want more, I want more, I want more. When will you be happy with what you have? If you're happy with what you have, then you're probably not desiring. So it doesn't mean you don't possess anything, but you are no longer desiring more.
It's so cool.
If Addie gets a Transformer, she wants the next one. You just got Optimus Prime, but I want RC. Why? Because I want it. That's a desire.
It's like so contrasting.
Yeah, well, and some folks would argue that it might not be natural. It's not part of human makeup and instinct. But again, this is where the eternal soul goes beyond the realm that we're familiar with, with humanity. It goes into whole other aspects, which, as a human, mind starts to get blown. This is why, remember Duncan, he can throw Matt off his game in AP Gov, just bring up multiple parallel universes to get Savannah off her game, break her nose. You're going to be doing that reading check quiz tomorrow within Duncan's forearm. He'd be like, hey, I wrote essays with only one arm at the beginning of the year. Who needs a nose? Come on. Gray, you broke it again. Actually, Chandler was breaking stuff fourth period. The book itself, spent a lot of time talking about Buddhist ideas and ideology and all that kind of stuff. 4 Noble Truths, 8-fold path to get to it. If you open up your book, I think yours has a table of contents. Yours doesn't. That's has 4 chapters. Part 2, which you'll be finishing when we get to the end of the book, I think on January the 22nd, has 8 chapters. So 4 Noble Truths, 8-fold Path. Structure of the book kind of mimics that, where part 1, 4 chapters, not necessarily meaning each chapter deals with one of those Noble Truths, but it's part of kind of the awakening, the understanding that Siddhartha is going through about life in general, so far as understanding that the 4 Noble Truths, and then he's trying to figure out how can I gain that enlightenment, that peace, that contentment through part 2, which has the 8 chapters, kind of mimicking that whole 8-fold path idea. So the structure of the book is certainly meant to mimic ideas of Buddhism. The goal of the book is not to make Jenna a Buddhist and no longer care about percentages of grades and all that kind of stuff. But it's certainly a framework that Hess is using. Hess grows up, born in Germany, but he spends a lot of time of his youth in India because his parents are missionaries in India. So he certainly gets a lot of interaction with Hindu culture, Buddhist culture, and all those things are kind of coming together for him when he's writing the book. I mentioned to you when he's writing it in the 19-teens, you got World War I going on. His son is ill. His wife has just been committed to a mental institution with schizophrenia. His father has just passed away. So he's kind of at his mental breaking point and trying to find some ways to put all these things together to try to find some kind of peace, some kind of enlightenment or contentment. So the Buddhist thought, the Hindu thought, Christianity thoughts all kind of come together and meld with Siddhartha. You gonna let me play my video, Greg?
Sorry.
Why I put up with you?
I feel this is King's marker. She knows I do it. She knows that I do it.
Do you desire the markers?
No, Mr. Cummings just steals them sometimes. So I used to steal them, make her think that I was.
Do you desire to make her unhappy?
No.
Okay. Yeah, are you setting up Mr. Cummings for failure?
Self-experienced. When you achieved enlightenment, that is why I'm going on my way. Not to find a better teacher, but to find a way.
Mitch was thinking about that one.
One with an arrow and a cross, darkness of the bottoms, life has become cumbersome. Too heavy, too light, too black or too white, too wrong or too right, day or tonight, cumbersome. Too rich or too poor, she's wanting me this
Mitchell's soul is the whole world.
Do you use the same ad for each trailer?
No, I never used them before.
Really? I feel like I see like almost the same ad. What was the second one we watched, right? It was like the third. But what was the other one we watched?
We skipped the last one. Or no, we saw Ratchet. We saw Heart of Darkness and Ratchet. And then the one in between them we skipped. Is Ray Mysterio.
Well, you could go watch it on Google Classroom. Don't blame it on me. It's your fault that you didn't go see it. Real quick here, I want to run through some stuff with the characters, and the good thing for you is compared to Cuckoo's Nest, there's not nearly as many characters that you have to take a look at. Siddhartha is going to be the main character, obviously, protagonist, name of the book. Meaning of Siddhartha, the name is he who attains his goal. What I don't know the answer to would be, does Siddhartha mean he who attains his goal because it is based from the Buddha who attained his goal and his name being Siddhartha, and we went, hey, Truth got her goal, therefore anyone named Truth will be a person who attains the goal? Or is it the idea that, it happens to be happy circumstance that a person who will attain his goal is a person who did attain his goal? But certainly it's purposeful that Siddhartha would be speaking to other Siddhartha, because you would have two people who are in search of something, one who has definitely gotten there, or is at least recognized as having gotten there, and another one who is trying to get there. Siddhartha's best friend, his buddy throughout the most of the book, is a guy by the name of Govinda. Govinda means keeper of the cows. Govinda would also be a Brahmin, so there's some sacred religious, spiritual meaning to his name. Cows are sacred in Hinduism, so certainly there would be interpretation that he has a religious calling. These two are going to be paired together pretty much all throughout part one, and then we have Buddha himself. The spelling of Gautama varies from text to text. Honestly, I forget which way it's spelled in your version of the book. I think you might be G-O-T-A-M-A, or it would be G-A-U-T-A-M-A. But the other version that I have is a totally different spelling that's going to take place. But these are going to be the main three folks that you have in the first four chapters of the book for part one. There'll be some minor characters such as family members and things like that, but the main stuff is going to revolve around those three. Part two is when we meet Kamala, kind of like Daisy Flower with Great Gatsby. Kamala would be Lotus Blossom. It's the love interest of Siddhartha. So, back to Adele's question, would love get in the way of, reaching that kind of nirvana attainment? Yeah, probably. And so his experiences with her will be one that we'll kind of take a look at. She's our prostitute because we have to have prostitutes in our books. Heart of Darkness, we didn't. Well, we had a mistress. Oh well. Kamaswami is a merchant, so he is a person who desires, wants to own, be a master of wealth. So he becomes representative of that whole idea about materialism, wealth, ownership. Big character also in part two is going to be Vasudeva. This is one where he kind of has a little bit of a demigod quality about him, a spiritual person. All he does is he takes people back and forth across the river on his raft. Savannah could be rowing people across the Ohio on a little ferry boat in that happy place. You're going to be able to run up and down the corner without like no nose? Nope, you can't. Maybe you should plug your nose.
Yeah.
Or you get an elbow to your nose and it explodes. Maybe all the other stuff will come out.
I mean,
You come back better than you. I think the holidays wore you out.
Well, I was sick for like the last 3 days of break. It was miserable.
Here, do you want me to give this to you?
No, I left them there so I